So this is actually a video that I've been meaning to do for quite some time, and it's about Sirgas territory and how she's really using the area since we've started releasing her in her 2,000 hectare reserve. Well, I actually had quite a hard time with all of this in the beginning in Africa, just to get an idea of these landscapes and these areas. They really are enormous. So Sirgas area is 2,000 hectares or 20 square kilometers, or I think it's 5,000 acres. It's a large chunk of land, and wild lion territories actually start at this kind of area. So lions in the wild have been recorded as a whole pride to utilize this not only as their territory but as their home range, like as the entire area that they will be using throughout a given period of time, which usually will be several years, where this lion pride simply occupies that space and nothing else. And that's where it starts, scientifically speaking. And that's why for me it was always important that Sirga gets that as a minimum, although she's only one lioness, but that it actually is a space that wild lions would consider a home without having to leave it. So I wanted to make sure that Sirga has that. And in the wild, there would be other lion territories, or maybe cities or farms where lions would be chased out or being killed, that form the boundaries of these territories or home ranges that lions occupy. And in Sirga's case, we obviously put a fence around it so that there's no dangers, because if she would cross some of these fence lines and go into community areas and kill livestock or people, obviously Sirga would be killed, and potentially she could be running into other lion territories and get killed there. So we've just made sure that that doesn't happen, but she still has a free lion's life. But what's important for this to understand is that Sirga's collar is off. I take it off Sirga and I switch it off. There's a magnet that I put on it, and it's off and it stays in the office. So it does not record any locations if Sirga is not free to go. So all of this is recorded while Sirga could be wherever she wanted to be. So if we're looking at this now overall, actually you can see, and this whole thing here right now is all of the points that it's taken since Sirga has been released. So that's quite a few years now that's been going on. And the numbers are hourly locations. So what we can see obviously here at the corner where everything comes together, that's her enclosure. And you can see that that's by far, really by absolute far, the most used space that she has in that entire area. And as I said just now, that is her being voluntarily at home without the doors open. She can go wherever she wants, but she chooses to spend most of the time right there in her little enclosure because that's her safe spot. And in a home range, lions have territories. So basically, if you think about it, like we have our apartment in a city, right? Although we know the entire city, but outside we have to deal with other people. This is still our area. We know it well, but that would be like our home range if we compare to lions. And for Sirga, that big area, the 2,000 hectare in a way, I think that's her home range that she really utilizes. But her enclosure, the 1 hectare, that's kind of like our apartment for her. That's her safe space. She can't always lock the door like we do, but still, that's her area, which she really defends. She gets very grumpy at anything that gets near that or in it. So that's her territory. And then the rest is her home range. And similarly for us, that will be our apartment maybe, and our garden, what we actually have. That's our territory. And then the city would be our home range. And that's what you can see here. So Sirga spends most of the time at home in her territory, like we do maybe in our apartment or our garden. And then she has a few spots like this one here, the 582 number. That's where the waterhole is. So she spends pretty much the second most amount of time right there in that area. Then we have 3 large spots near home, which she's utilizing a lot. All these orange points here, those 3 that are close to the enclosure. And then if we look at this line up, that is the most utilized area pretty much if we add up all these hours. And for some reason, Sirga just likes walking up this fence line, and she marks her territory along this quite a bit. And then she often just comes home again. So that's where all these hours come from. She made a kill over here where the 452 is. Then she had a kill here. She had some kills at the waterhole. But yeah, it just gives you an idea of the overall time that Sirga has spent outside so far. So greeting Sirga, there's basically 2 things that can happen. And one of them is that the door is open and Sirga is wearing the collar because she can be wherever she wants. If that's the case, I normally sit down to greet her. But if the door is closed because she's been inside for whatever reason, that's when this famous hug can happen, because Sirga is right in front of the door, and as I open up, she stands up and we can do the hug. if the door was open, Sirga always has that, space to come running, and she doesn't stop. She'll come with full blast, and that really hurts. So I can't really do that. And if I sit down, she just rolls over me. It's much easier to absorb that weight that comes running at you. And the other thing is that when she wears the collar, the hugging just doesn't work, because she's going to rub her head on me. And although the collar is made nice and smooth on the inside for Sirga's neck to protect it and don't do any harm, on the outside it has a few bolts sticking out and other sharper edges, which really can hurt me. So that the head rubbing while she's hugging me like this, that just can't work. So that's why I sit down when the door's open, and I stand up if Sirga goes out for a walk. And obviously that's her excited time. If she sees me, the door's been closed for a few days and we go out, she's just kind of like a dog that you take for a walk. She really just enjoys it and is just playful and starts running off.
Hey Sirga, you want to run? Let's go running.
Yeah, then if we look at a different map, and now not the entire time, but we take, like, let's maybe look at sort of almost the last year. So if we look at the first 4 months of 2023, we get this image, and it's a very similar sort of picture than what we had before. You can see, again, by far the most time is spent at home, at her enclosure, and then the second most time again at the waterhole, and sort of regular points all over the place, which, yeah, and always the least, which is here, the green points, is sort of the furthest away from home. So she doesn't ever really go far up into these top areas of her reserve. That's very unutilized. It's the furthest away, the furthest to walk, it's furthest from the waterhole. So that's just not Sirga's favorite area, and she doesn't utilize it very much at all. And yeah, so while Sirga is outside, everything is open. She can go wherever she wants. She is at home a lot of the time. So sometimes I still got to go greet her, but then the door's already open, which is why I'm sitting down and I'm waiting for her to come shooting out. So that's just the greeting that happens, and then we're out walking again. So Sirga, although she's at home, if she sees me and if it's not too hot to walk or anything like that, then she wants to go out. So she loves, and she's actually showing me her territory. She takes me to the trees that she's marking and just showing me where she's maybe been chasing something. So that's our time that we spend together, and how we spend our time together. And even though she's in the enclosure, if she's home, she's sort of waiting for me sometimes. And if I show up, we always go out walking. And yeah, that's the best time of my life out here, is actually being out with Sirga, quite honestly. That it's such a privilege to be able to walk with her and experience that. So I couldn't be more happy than in those moments. All right, so if we look at the next 4 months of 2023, now we're sort of looking from like April towards August, it looks like this, and pretty much the same thing. Although if we look quickly at the previous image, we still had 600 and something in a similar time frame hours at home, and now 1,057. So quite a lot more hours that Sirga spent at home, which yeah, it's perfect. I couldn't be more happy. You know, she's supposed to be outside, and she's supposed to be inside whenever she wants to. And the fact that she spends so much time at home is just great to me. Like I couldn't wish for anything better. It's her home. It's just nice to know that the enclosure that she's in sometimes is not really something that she hates at all. It's where she spends most of her time anyways. So I feel a lot less bad in a way having to, to lock her up if I have to go away, or if there's lions, or if the fence needs a lot of maintenance and things like that. And other than that, if we look at this, the picture looks very, very similar. The green dots, the least hours, are very far away. Also the yellow ones don't have very many hours in them. And then again, waterhole the most, and a little bit along the fence line here. That's her main territory marking sort of route that she likes to take. By the way, this odd place out here, the number 7, those 7 hours, that is the Modisa camp right there at this pan, which, as you can see here, it's outside of Sirgas reserve. And that's just when I'm testing the collar, because it has a mechanism built in that if it's outside Sirgas area, it starts sending emails and notifications to me right away, which helps to obviously know that Sirga is not in, should that ever be the case. And sometimes I just test it to make sure it's all working. And that's why that happened. So that wasn't Sirga leaving her area, that was me testing the color. And other than that, something that's also interesting maybe to mention, at this area here, if we're looking into it, you can see the actual 2,000 hectare. On the far sides, again, it didn't define the fences very well here and on the top, but on the bottom sides you can really see how defined the boundary is, and that's obviously because that's where Sirga has been a lot more. And I love that it happens like this, because this area over here and everything around it and down here towards the Modisa camp, that is all our area. Then the two other sides, the two other boundaries on Sirga's area here, this one and then up on top over here, those areas are not ours. The one is basically a national park or protected wildlife area that's government controlled up here, and that one is huge. It goes up all the way to Mount for like 600 kilometers. There's just wildlife areas to the north of us. And on this side, it's something called communal grazing land. So we could have people there with goats. It's the communities are allowed to access this area. And although nobody has water nearby, they could be there. So I love the fact that Sirga utilizes these two fence lines, which are close, you know, to our area. And even if she would ever go through the fence for some reason, she would still be in our area at first, which would be quite easy. So there's very little chance of Sirga ever actually going out into an area that we don't control and where she might be under threat. So actually this all works out pretty well like that. Yeah, so and when we're out on the walks, the one thing I always carry with me is just a bit of water, because when it's hot especially, Sirga really enjoys something to drink. So she just likes it, and even though she can go to the waterhole, sometimes she's many kilometers away from it. It's very hot, and I just like to do a favor and bring some water with, but it's nothing that she would need, it's just to make her happy. And when we get home, that's just something I wanted to show you about marking her territory quickly. I just thought I'd show you at her door. Sirga is very, very actively sort of marking her territory, and basically what you can see here is just Sirga really rubbing her head against the door here. You can see there's some hairs of her that are stuck onto the frame, and all these scratches in the paint, that's from the screws on the collar. So Sirga is really marking the entrance here to her territory very, very well, and clearly very often. So she really, it must be enjoying it, and definitely has no problem to continuously come home. And it makes me quite happy that Sirga enjoys her home so much. She obviously does not mind being here at all, and the fact that she has all this freedom out here just to do whatever she wants, it makes it just even more amazing. Yeah, and then if we're looking at Sirga's last month, now the last month until today outside, they're really, you can see she's not utilized much of her area at all. If we're looking at this map, the area actually goes all the way up to here, where I'm sort of, along this line roughly. And then it comes down here. So you can see that fence line that she's marking. She did walk it up and down a little bit, but not too much. She by far spent most of the time at home again. Then the eland kill, the big one that she made, was just here between the yellow and the orange space. So that's where she spent a lot of time. And then again, a lot of hours here at the waterhole. And then she did a few excursions around the waterhole, but never even used any of the other 3 fence lines. So over the past month, Sirga has not used much of her area at all, really, which is great. It shows that she's more and more over time actually getting used to being more home. She goes out, she goes to the water, and she doesn't really want to explore the boundaries of this area too much anymore. She's quite comfortable using a smaller space. Sometimes she'll do a round and really check the boundaries, mark her territory, but most of the time she doesn't use much of it. Like over this month, she used max, like I would say maximum a quarter of her area, and that not even for a large amount of time. So that's perfect, and it really shows that this isn't like an enclosure where Sirga is up and down and trying to go out or go other places. She really is comfortable there and spends most of her time in her safe little space at home. And this is just a little clip of Sirga coming home with me. I wait for her because she normally follows behind me when it's warm and I'm going back home, but she'll always come with. She could stay outside, but she prefers to come home with me. And you can see that she greets me, but then she actually wants to go inside. It's kind of what she does, and it shows again that I don't even need to lead her inside. She goes inside. That's her safe place. She knows there's water in there. She knows if she stays there, she gets food in the evening. And that's how we're going to continue giving Sirga a nice life. It would be lovely one day if she does get a mate, but I think I've mentioned that before. I don't know if everybody knows about it, but I really do not want to purchase a lion or in any way create a situation where we would get one. And I don't want to purchase one because I in no way do I want to support any of the breeding of lions that's happening in Africa. If a lion needs rescuing and it ends up being here with Sirga, that'd be nice. But otherwise, I really think Sirga has a good life. And she meets lions on a semi-regular basis. And some of you will remember the last time that happened, it didn't go so well. They were just fighting, and that was the first physical interaction she's had with them. So a lot of lions or lionesses are actually solitary in the Kalahari in Botswana because of the lower prey density compared to other areas. So they meet up for mating and when they raise their young, but the rest of the time they are quite often alone. So I don't think it's completely unnatural for Sirga at all to not have other lions around. And at least she's got me, and obviously she does enjoy that. So I will continue to spend as much time as I can with her. And yeah, I just love the fact that she is free like this now. It's just so amazing. And well, thanks to all of you and everybody who's been donating when we did these fence lines for her and everything. It's just such an incredible achievement. And it's something that we could have never done without all the support that came from outside. So I'm super proud of that. It makes me happy every time just to look at these things, and I still can't believe Sirga is actually outside. It's a lot of work to look after her, to monitor this the whole time. Our staff are doing an incredible job on checking the fences and maintaining everything. So I really couldn't be more proud. This is an amazing scenario, and I hope that more and more people over time will start understanding what this actually is. I don't think there's ever been a lion anywhere in the world that was given this kind of life. So this is really something special, and the fact that she's now hunting for herself mostly is even more amazing. That's also something that's not really recorded like that at all, especially not from a single lioness without help. So the fact that she can do that is incredible. And yeah, thank you all for following the story, and I will try and keep you posted on Sirga as much as I can.